On this show, you'll find inspiration, motivation, and advice from experts, as well as valuable tips on how to get started or improve your business. Let's dive into how you can begin and grow your wisdom business. Inspiring others looks different for everyone. How will you inspire? So welcome to the Wise Dome podcast, and today we're chatting with Roger Williams. Roger helps inspire and empower other people to live a life of joy through crossing items off their bucket list. Roger has a podcast, book, and offerings mentor services around this objective. Roger, welcome to the Wise Dome podcast.
Oh, Nikki, I'm so grateful to be here. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, well, bucket lists, hello. How many of us out there have those or even commit to actually having those?
Yeah. Well, in the United States, they would say 95% of us in the United States have one.
Yep.
But they would also, surveys would say that only 40% of the people are actually doing anything with theirs. So there's a gap in getting people to get it out of their brains and get it onto a piece of paper so they can actually start focusing on it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, where did it all come from? How did this, your evolution, from your podcast and then branching into this area in this field? Tell us about the journey and where did it all come from? What triggered you to do this?
Yeah, quarantine, a heart attack, and 30 years of doing the same old thing.
There you go.
That's the short
monotonous
answer.
life. Yeah, that tends to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing work in the youth field and education for about 30 years. Was pretty good at it, but it just, I was during the quarantine. We all had a little extra time on our hands because we're all at home, and started thinking about my self-worth a little bit, where I found my self-worth, and then boom, December 2020, I had a heart attack, which kicked that conversation into overdrive in my head, and I just realized that I didn't want to answer the question when I met people. By who I sold my labor to and how I did it anymore. The question is always, what do you do? And the first answer is your job. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't want to answer the question like that anymore. So I went to all my social media accounts and changed my job title to head crosser offer of my bucket list.
Love that.
Yeah. And so I started my bucket list lifestyle journey and booked in the middle of a pandemic flights to Spain to walk the Camino de Santiago, which had been in my head for a real long time as a thing on my bucket list. And so I was just looking kind of at ways to monetize that a little bit. Yeah. And so that's kind of where the podcast came from first. Yeah. Okay. And I did a couple of episodes before I left. The Camino takes about 35 days to complete. So my idea was, I'm just going to interview people along the way, and I'll post every day, and I'll have a Patreon account. I'll do all these things. And when I got out there, I'm just like, no, this is my trip.
Not that easy. Good.
Yeah, and it's my trip, and I want to focus on that. And I'm intruding on other people's trips if I sit there and try to strong arm them into doing a show with me. And so I just kind of left it. Mm-hmm. And then when I got back from that trip, I went into work as I normally would. And a friend of mine said, "How was your trip?" I worked with her for 4.5 years. I showed her an Instagram reel that I had made along the way of just selfies of people I met. Yeah. And she got done looking at it. She goes, "I have never seen you that happy." Oh. Yeah. And so, I was glad that that's what she saw, because I was. I don't think I've ever been so happy at that point in my life after 52 years. But then I got sad because I was just like, I've worked with you for 4.5 years and you've never seen me that happy. That something in my life needs to change. Yeah. And so that's when I basically quit my job and decided I was going to take an adult gap year, that I was only going to do things that I enjoyed, was going to work on my bucket list, raided the retirement fund to be able to sustain that, and started the podcast back up. So at this point, I've been doing it for about a year. Mm-hmm. I went on a trip to Costa Rica, Spain, Italy, Israel, and the United Kingdom for 3 months during the past year. And during that time, I really started enjoying the podcast more and more. Basically, the podcast is just me talking to one person about one item they've crossed off their bucket list, and we just go through the who's, the what's, the whys, the how do you do it, all that kind of stuff. And I just fell in love with it. I just absolutely, before I even started the podcast, I went to a friend of mine who was an avid podcast listener, because I was not. I didn't know. I barely knew anything about what this whole industry and sector was. And I shared it. I shared my idea with him, and he said, "Oh, that's you.
Yeah,
that's you." He said, "You get people to tell you their stories.
Yeah.
So if that's what you're going to do, you just need to do it. Keep doing it, and be successful. You'll eventually be successful at it." And so doing the podcast, listening to all these other people tell their bucket list journey stories, and experiencing my own, I had on my bucket list to write a book. Actually, I had on my bucket list to write 3 different books. But when I got back from that 3-month trip, I really just kind of fell in love with this idea of doing this bucket list lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so through all these people's stories, my own experiences, I'm like, I just got to write a book. And I just got to, to help other people get into this. And that's what I did. I came back, put the other books aside that I'd started writing, and wrote that book and got it out there self-published. So it's been a journey. It's been interesting, but I'm excited for it. And I've been in the business of helping people all my life.
Exactly. I was about to say, yeah.
So
you're just doing it a different way now, and helps you as well in the meantime.
Yeah. No doubt. So it's just just a transitioning. The focus is really what it boils down to.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's, you go through life and the monotonous, the daily life, you're doing your things, this and that, and then you kind of realize at some point there's a rut, and you don't notice it until someone mentions it to you, isn't it? It's like sometimes they've got to go, here, put the mirror in front of you and say, have a look at this. But it's, it's great that you've magnified. To me, the way I see it from what you've just said just then is like you've magnified everything that you've done in your past in teaching and everything like that, but magnified your passion, because that's something you obviously want to share and do. But now you're doing it, matching it with your actual passions of living life. That's amazing. It's great to be able to do that. And, you're still young. Plenty of time.
I am.
You are, trust me. To tick off everything, to go through, And I have to ask you, how long should a bucket list be?
So this was going back to the book. This is one of the interesting things that I found, right?
Yeah.
I had a lot of imposter syndrome in being an author, just to begin with. The book was very easy for me to outline and write. Went through university. I know how to write a paper. I'm a teacher. I know how to teach stuff. But the one thing that was really hard for me was that here's this nonfiction book supposedly giving advice and tips and strategies to people, and I'm like, it was really like my introduction is really about how hard it was for me, because I'm not the kind of person that like wants to tell people how to do things, right? And so if you read the book, it's like over and over again, I just keep saying, it's your list. It's your list. It's your list. It doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what I want. It's your list. And so there's no prescribed, list at length. There's no prescribed things you have to do, right? The whole point of the book is to say, here are some prompts. Here are some tips. Here are some ways, some strategies that you can cross things off your list, but you don't have to do any of them. Like I think I have 11 prompts in there of when you create your list. But, I say in there in the book, if something doesn't hit you, right, challenge yourself. You should always be challenging yourself. But like, I'm a fairly minimalist kind of a guy. I don't buy a lot of stuff that I don't need. And so but one of the prompts is, what have you always wanted to buy? And so for me, like that prompt doesn't mean a whole lot, right? I mean, I challenge myself. I do have something on my list I want to buy. But if that's not you, right? If you're not into travel, if you're not, if things don't excite you, what are the things that do, right? Your bucket list could be all just volunteer activities you want to take part in. It doesn't necessarily have to be these grand adventures. I think that's one of the biggest things, one of the, not struggles, but one of the things I've been dealing with in coming into this knowledge-based business is that I never wanted to be an influencer.
Yeah.
I want to influence people, but I don't want to be an influencer.
Yeah.
And so it was really hard for me to write the book because it's just like, it's your list,
God.
it's your list, it's your list. So even from the outset, like one of the things that prompted me to write the book was I had discovered that I had set an intention for my bucket list where I said, this is, I want this list to be about community. Whether I'm creating it or extending it, I want my list to be about community. And for me, that's been one of the biggest successes I've had in my own bucket list journey, was to say, okay, I know how to create a list because it's based on that mission, that vision statement, that intention of creating community. So it's easy for me to make a list of things I want to do in that regards. And then it's easy for me to look at the list and manage it based on that intention as well. Exactly. So that's something I hadn't heard in the space before. And I think that when I discovered that, I'm like, okay, that's got to be shared, right?
Exactly.
I've got to share this because it's just not out there. No one's talking about it. Yeah. And I even had somebody tell me that they had stole it from me and putting it in their book. They're giving me credit, but they're putting it in their upcoming book. So it's just like, okay, this is definitely something that's different in the space of, because so many people look at my pictures of me floating around in balloons in Cappadocia. And, here I am on the top of Machu Picchu, and here's me snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef. All those things are fantastic. And it's not like I'm saying don't travel and don't experience those things, but why are you doing it? What's your why?
Exactly. Yeah, I was literally, as you're talking about, when you're creating your, explaining to people, this is, the prompts in creating their list. It does come down to the whole message, the intention of why they're creating the list. So going through that process in your mind, and you obviously had your trigger point where you said, nah, that's it, I'm out, I'm doing this. Do you share that a lot with people as well, like especially in your book? Because obviously you have your intention, but do you share your why a lot? Because that is something that, I think many people out there, when it comes to a knowledge business, you have your why, but then you also have that imposter syndrome. Should I share my why? People will be wondering, why would they, who are they?
Yeah.
How did you overcome that?
Yeah, the first whole chapter in the book is all about my why. It's how I became the head crosser of my bucket list from beginning to end, going way back before even what I told you. Like there's a much larger story behind it, but I share, this is how I became the head crosser of my bucket list. And then the really unique thing is the book is I just don't give prompts. Right. I just don't say, what have you always wanted to buy? I give either my stories or stories from my guests that have been on my show about how they use that prompt and how they or I have used it to fulfill. So like I do have something I want to buy. It's a comic book. It's from 1958 and it's really expensive. So I don't know when I'm going to buy it, but at some point I'll have 25 grand that I'll be able to buy that comic book. But I explained the whole reasoning behind it and why that's valuable to me and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, most definitely. I don't think my story, I think it's about claiming authority in the space.
Yes.
And I don't want to be an authority over anyone, right? Not that kind of authority, but I do want to let people know that I have experience, that have knowledge. And that was where I think a lot of the imposter syndrome came in, is like, how am I the person to tell this, to tell people to do this or lead people through this?
It's the pitfall you fall in, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's just about, knowing your self-worth. Right. And so when I started doing other people's podcasts to promote my podcast, I took a shotgun, right? And I just, blew away and just said, okay, anything and everything. And when I was done with that, I was like, I had done podcasts in the top 0.5%, and I had done podcasts where it was like this person's second episode ever. And, and so now I have a limit, right?
Yeah.
If you're not, I don't do shows that aren't in the top 5%. And it's not because I don't care about those other people or, but my time is valuable. I know the value of my time and I know the value of what I'm sharing. So I want to maximize, and leverage everything I can get out of that. So, So it's rough. It's hard to, it sounds conceited,
Yeah.
right? But I am a good guest. I do have lots of praise from people that have 1% shows and 1.5% shows.
Yeah.
And I need to keep moving forward too, right? Because I want to get down to that 0.05% of podcasts where I'm speaking to those huge audiences.
Oh, yeah.
So I need to keep advancing.
I was about to say that's obviously one of the challenges that, we find ourselves pushing ourselves out there and building a brand and building, like you said, there's so many definitions to authority, isn't there? And it's how you perceive what authority is. And I was exactly the same. Imposter syndrome. What am I doing what I'm doing? I come from interiors and I'm building a SaaS platform, in learning management. But I have a strong why. So, that's, but we all have authority in what we're doing because of our why and the strength of that why. That passion there just gives you that drive. It's the propulsion that you have behind it to keep you going. And people will see that when they see your passion in what you're doing. And especially when you're explaining the bucket list side of things, and why. And having a broader understanding that not all of us are going to have the same bucket list or length of a bucket list, but we all have to have an intention to our bucket list. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, the other thing that I would add to what you said is that one of the things that I got over that imposter syndrome was I maintained my authenticity.
Yeah.
I refuse to be anything other than organic and authentic.
Yeah.
And that's what, being an all DIYer, like everything I do is DIY, everything, the book, the publishing, the podcast. I mean, I do it all. And so I've had to learn a lot and was taught some valuable lessons along the way. But one of them is that, the interesting thing about our world today is that we have the distinct ability to tell our own story. And that's good and that's bad.
Yeah.
Because you don't always know if someone's story is authentic or not.
Yeah.
And in our worlds, the gatekeepers are no longer the publishers and the record companies and the movie studios, right? It's a like, it's a follow.
Yes.
It's an Amazon #1 bestseller. And unfortunately, even so, it's the top 5% of podcasts, right? All those things can be manipulated through dollars.
Yes.
They can. You can buy reviews for your podcast, which will increase your percentage rate. You can buy followers on Instagram. I read a story about a guy who took pictures of his feet, put it in a PDF, uploaded it to Amazon, put it on Kindle for 25 cents. As soon as it went live, he messaged 2 of his friends to buy the book and leave reviews.
Right.
And within an hour and a half, he was an Amazon #1 bestseller.
Sorry, my face. No one can see my face right now, but I'm in pure shock.
I can't. Yes, that's how badly the algorithms and the numbers are manipulated and can be manipulated. You can buy reviews for your book. You don't even have to have actual, people have bought your book, review your book. And so a lot of that, when you get into this field of knowledge-based business, is that so much of it, you have to be careful about what's authentic and what's not authentic. And I personally feel like the more authentic I am, the longer I'm going to last.
Exactly.
And if that means I don't buy my place on a podcast that's in the top 1%, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to, I've had lots of people say, oh, it costs $200 or it costs $97 to be on our podcast. And I'm just like, nope. And
I just want to have conversations with real people. I don't want to have to buy my way in there. Yeah.
And one of the podcasts was, the theme of it was self-esteem and confidence. And so when I got the email, I put in the pitch and I got an email back within 12 hours and I responded to that when it said, $97. I filled out the form and said, no, I'm not going to pay you $97. I said, because I have high self-esteem and I'm confident what I can bring to the table. So if you want me to still be on your show, I'd be glad to be on your show. It's been like 4 or 5 days and I've never heard anything back.
Haven't heard anything.
I'm okay.
We're okay with that. Well, you mentioned, I was going to ask you, was there any major lesson that you've learned along the way? Like you mentioned how you wanted to show transit into like monetizing, obviously, we're going to monetize. So creating your book was one way of doing that. Have you thought of other ways that you want to monetize how what you're sharing based on the lessons you might have learned along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've done my best, right? I'm totally DIY. I'm learning on the fly. I'm, getting all this stuff. And I think I don't know if there's anything I would change. I'm on a trajectory with all those things.
Yep.
I'm an Aquarius as my zodiac sign. So I have a bright idea every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And so, so I do have, one of the books I'm still writing will hopefully come out in June or July. Yeah. And so I'm taking some of the things that I've learned and using them as lessons for that project.
Right.
So I'm starting a podcast. I'm going to have another podcast, a second show. It's completely different than this show. Yeah. It's based on the theme of modern masculinity, and because my book is a memoir about bonding between my grandfather and my dad, myself and my son, awesome. All through the lens of professional wrestling, which is kind of weird, but it's okay.
It's a niche.
Yeah, it's a niche. But so I'm starting to now record episodes for a show that's going to. I'm basically building my funnel ahead of time.
Yeah.
Instead of, because this everything kind of rolled its way into existence.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be more prepared for everything I learned to be able to set that book, that show up for more success, right? Yeah. Even just taking 6 months in recording episodes so they've got them all done and banked, as well as going after what I perceive are some pretty hefty guests to be on the show. And so that takes time. Yeah. Right. You just can't
book them in a week before. No.
Yeah. You can't just call somebody up and have Jason Sudeikis from Ted Lasso on your show tomorrow. That's what I'm going for it. So good on you. So that takes time. So being able to prepare samples and doing all that stuff so that I can get to that point. If I can do some of those things and have some of those people on the show, then it'll be easy for me to sell advertising right out of the gate instead of waiting, till I have 10,000 or 15,000 downloads to be able to do that like I am for this show. So it's just, I've learned a lot. I've banked that knowledge and I'm going to apply it to something else and see if that can be more successful.
Yeah. Now that's awesome because there's like a lesson that you've learned there, but you're obviously, pushing yourself further because that's what business is all about, isn't it? Or even just life. There's evolution and we evolve along the way and we evolve from the lessons that we've learned. So the amount of hats we all wear as solopreneurs is ridiculous. So, all hats to you, man, taking on a second podcast. Do you edit all your podcasts and everything as well?
I am 100% DIY.
Oh, yeah.
Everything. I write the copy. I make the posts for Instagram. I do all the design work. I do. I get guests. It's the whole 9 yards.
How many hours a week does that take up of your work time? That you apply.
It is. I'm luckily in a place where it is my work time. So probably 30 to 35 hours.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because you're doing it full time. You're like, this is your life. This is what you're doing. Exactly. With respect to, how you've been sharing your wisdom, like you mentioned, guests that you have and so forth, have you carried along or, from reviews that you've had from people, about how you've shared and how it's affected them, have you picked up on anything from like any big moment that made you go, oh, that's, really nice I was able to do that for someone? Or
It's more, thankfully, it's come more in responses from hosts of podcasts that I've been on. I've gotten really great feedback from people, and that's been very, very helpful to build my confidence. A lot of doing this podcasting thing, it's about reps. And you just got to keep doing the reps and doing the reps and doing the reps. Yeah. And I think that's true just about with anything, even writing or, whatever you're doing, you got to do the reps, whether you're a performing artist or whatever. Yeah. And so as I've done the reps, I've gotten better. and better. And so my goal is just to continue to do them. Actually, the Crossing It Off podcast is going to most likely start dropping 2 episodes a week starting at the first of the year. So I'm not only it's almost like taking on a third show, right?
But a third one now.
but I've gotten good at it, and I've gotten not just
efficiency there now.
Yeah, and it's efficiency in the interviews. It's efficiency in the editing. And so when I started, what took me 3 hours now takes me 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly improving because I'm doing the reps.
Yeah.
And I just enjoy it. I mean, I think that's thankfully the greatest thing is that I just enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
I record well in advance of when I drop episodes.
Yeah.
And I'm always thinking about the next one I've got to edit and get out there and published. And most of the times I'm like, oh, I remember that episode was so bad. Like the guest was bad. I was bad. And then I go to edit, right? The week of, I go to edit, and it's just like, wow, this is really good. I'm so glad. This is so good. I'm so glad that this person came on the show. This is going to be a great episode. And I got a text message the other night from a friend from high school, which is 35 years ago, who said, I just listened to this episode, and just thanks for sharing your passion, and it's just really awesome. And and for me, it's like that wasn't my episode; that was the guest episode. And so I'm just super excited to be able to share their stories, and that just makes it so much fun.
Yeah, and it's conversations that need to be had out there, and it could be one person listening to it, or 100, or 1,000, whatever it is, but it will affect someone. And that's, and that one person just means it all anyway. It makes it all worth it, doesn't it, in the end?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I do have a target amount of audience that I'm going for. I mean, I used to say that when I was in youth work. It was like, oh, if I can just save one kid, or if I can just help one kid, it'd be great. And it's just like, when I think about it, I mean, my podcast isn't huge, but it's like
growing.
Yes. Oh, yes. But if all the people that listen to it each week showed up at my house, we'd have a full house.
Yes.
And so I kind of have to remember that. I'm a little OCD about the numbers. So I'm chronically looking every night. I look at the numbers. But one of the great things about my service hosts for my podcast is that they have the map of the world.
Yes.
And so it's like I tend not to look at the daily numbers as much as I look at the map. Is the map changed? Is there a new, and I actually the other day, a friend of mine lives in French Guiana, and she said, oh, I'm going to listen to the show. And so been 2 or 3 days. So I took a picture of the map because I've never had anybody listen to French Guiana before. Yeah. I said, still waiting for that one.
Yeah. You haven't listened yet. It's not recording it.
We know. We see the analytics. But the show's been listened. It's amazing to me. The show's been listened to in 67 countries around the world. And it's just like, wow, awesome. That's just like, I mean, it just blows my mind that it's been downloaded 300 times in Japan. It's just
and you sit there and you think, really, little old me? They won't listen to me? But you don't realize it, do you? Until just the momentum goes. And like you were saying, the reps, consistency is the key, isn't it? You've just got to be consistent. You've got to keep pushing. You've got to keep pushing. And like with reps, the muscle will grow slowly.
Sure.
But I'd love to ask you, do you have, a particular legacy that you wish to leave from doing all this work that you do?
Yeah, legacies. Legacy is such a weird thing, I think. I was talking to somebody else the other day, and I said, I don't want to, it's like I said about being an influencer. I want to influence, but I don't want to be an influencer. And it's like, I want to be Tony Robbins, but I don't want to be Tony Robbins. Yeah. Right? I mean, nobody can be, but I don't. One of my things about my legacy is I don't want to be a leader of a cult. If that makes any sense.
I get, yeah.
Yeah, I want people to take what they need and go.
Yeah.
And so it's a little hard to talk about legacy. Is legacy selling 100,000 copies of the book? Maybe, there'll be impact out of that. But I really I want people to take what they need and go out and make it their own. I think that that's the most authentic way to do things. I offer mentoring services for bucket list activity, and somebody saw my prices the other day, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't need to. I just want to help as many people as I can. I don't want to." I don't care if, they come once or they come 4 times or, what help do you need? Let's help you and let's get you going. And if you need to keep coming back for the accountability, okay, fine. But she was like, your prices are so low. And I'm like, what do I need? I mean, if my legacy, anything is to help as many people as I can. And do it in an authentic way, as authentically as possible.
Awesome. No, that is so good, because it's you. You're sharing you and your why, and just especially when it comes to a bucket list, it's not just about business, is it? It's about life. It's someone's life. It's how they're going to live their life.
It's about someone's joy. It's about someone's joy.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to ask you, before, when you touched on what's your intention and your why. Do you find through the conversations you've had with people, what's the most common denominator when it comes to their intention or their why in creating their bucket list?
I think joy has to be on the top of the list.
Yeah.
I mean, because we're responsible for our own joy.
Yeah.
Your partner's not going to bring you joy. Your dog's not going to bring you joy. Your parents aren't. Your children aren't. Your coworkers aren't. You are 100% responsible whether or not you live a joy-filled life. And so that usually tends to be the most common denominator. Second, probably most like being, is getting it uncomfortable so that you can be comfortable. I think that has a lot to do with it too, is that people push themselves. Pushing boundaries, good boundaries, pushing good boundaries, and bringing yourself joy through challenging yourself. If you want to put them together, that's probably the main reason.
Yeah. And what tip could you give? Well, I'm sure there's many of them. For anyone who is listening and thinking,
Nikki, I have a book.
We'll get to that. But I'd love to know, how does someone start actually just sort of implementing that list?
Yeah. Implementing it, like managing it, or creating it?
Well, there's creating it, and I think they can go through your book with that, but I think is the other one.
Yeah. For me, the biggest thing is people have to write it down. You have to get it out of your head, because if you're keeping a list in your head, I mean, think about your grocery list, right? If you try to keep your grocery list in your head, you will, I don't care who you are, but you're going to forget something, right? Yep. And so there's just too much competition in your brain not to write those things down. And secondly about that is that you actually get to cross them off. Right. I mean, that's the whole point of it, is when I got back from the Camino de Santiago and walked into the house, I went straight up to my bathroom where my list is taped to the mirror, and I crossed that sucker off. Right.
Oh,
and
awesome.
it brought me so much satisfaction and built my confidence that I can do this. So for me, if you're trying to keep it in your head, even if you're crossing things off of it, it's still, you just lose track. There's software out there. There's apps that you can get to manage your bucket list. There's all those kind of things. I don't care. Just write it down at least once. And then the other thing I think people need to keep in their heads about a bucket list is that it should be a living document. Meaning that you create it, you put things on it, you do the things that are on it, and you cross them off. And I think you can also say and do that, if it's not something you put it on there and it's not something you're into anymore, then take it off. It's not that there's no big deal about it, right? You're not writing in stone on tablets, writing the thing down, and that it can't be changed. You should be able to change your list if you get older or you lose interest in something. There shouldn't be any shame. It definitely should not be any shame to say that I can take that thing off. It's okay. I got other stuff to do. And there's no problem with that. So making sure you remember that it's a living document. Yeah.
It's funny you were saying, with the list, and then it's like in my head, my husband and I, we plan out our holiday, and we're like, we've got this holiday. And for him, he always says, once the holiday is finished, he's like, got nothing else to look forward to anymore. But like having a bucket list, it like gives you something else to look forward to, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, especially during the pandemic. I mean, oh my gosh, that was like, it saved my life.
Yeah.
It really saved my life. You know, in the first half of 2021, when I, you know, even with the whole daunting, not being able to know if, you know, because Europe wasn't open yet. Like Europe opened like 2 months or 3 months before I took off on a plane. I had bought plane tickets in Europe.
Yeah, when you said, I was going to ask you about that, but I thought
yeah. And so even with all that uncertainty, I still had something. I'm going. Even if I can't do it when I planned it, I'll just rebook the tickets and I'll do it some other time. I'll do it next year, or I'll do it, you know, but having that to look forward to. And my partner, she didn't go with me for the whole trip, but she went to Spain on her own during that same time period for a couple of weeks, where she was traveling to Madrid, Seville, and Barcelona, and just traveling around Spain by herself. And then she met me the last 5 days of my walk, and we walked together for the last 5 days. So that was just something to look forward to too. Just, you know, having her there with me and completing that together, and walking into the plaza in Santiago de Compostela to see the cathedral. And it was, you know, it was for both of us. It was just like, we're doing something. We've got something to look forward to. And I think you know, I don't know what would have happened to me if I hadn't had that. And even now, even now I've got plans to go to the World Championship barbecue competitions in Memphis, Tennessee with 2 of my high school buddies. And
awesome.
You know, it's like, I can look forward to that. I'm excited about that. We're going to have a great time. And we haven't all been together for 6 or 7 years, and you know, it's going to be good.
It's going to be very good.
Oh yeah. I look forward to all the food and the camaraderie and the friendship. And I'm just stoked for that. So it keeps me going.
Oh, it's so good that, you know, you're living your life. And sometimes it does take a challenge in our lives to wake us up, or, you know, someone else to put a mirror in front of you or slap you across the face, whatever it is to wake you up. But at least you woke up and you're now living the life you want to live. So that's awesome to hear, Roger. And, you know, I'd love to ask if you've got an offer out there that you'd like to share with our audience today.
Yeah, so the book is out. It's on Amazon. Unfortunately, if the majority of the audience is in Australia, they can't get the paperback copy yet, but they can get the PDF there, the Kindle version. And if you want to grab the PDF version of the book, it's like actually $4 cheaper on my website if you use the code FRIEND when you check out. So folks can grab a PDF. I think it's like $5.99 or something like that, where on Amazon it's $9.99. So yeah, use the code FRIEND when you check out, and you get a copy of the book.
Awesome. Well, like I said, Roger, you've been fabulous and absolutely wonderful to talk to today.
Good.
And, you know, just great conversation as always. And if the details of Roger's offer and everything like that will be in our podcast summary below. So be sure to click on the link and don't forget to subscribe. And thank you again so much for your time, Roger. Really appreciated it.
I'm very, very thankful that you asked me to come, Nikki. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Wise Dome podcast. If you enjoyed and have been inspired by this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, do subscribe and please share it with others. Post about us on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, Nikki Kelly, you can follow me on Instagram at Wise Dome Podcast, WISEDOME Podcast. I'm Nikki Kelly. Thanks again, and we'll catch up next time.